Have you ever tried to visualize something so incredibly small, something so entirely alien to our everyday experience that words alone just fail? Well, in this explainer, we're going to do exactly that. We're diving into a microscopic biological process, and we're deciphering it entirely through the lens of animated video. Our source material today is a piece called Bacteriophage 3D Animation, Structure of Bacteriophage and How Bacteriophages Infect Bacteria. We're really going to explore how visual media steps up to the plate when standard textbooks just kind of fall short, acting as our very own microscope into a completely hidden, silent world. Now, what's genuinely fascinating about our source material today is actually what it lacks. Get this. When we pulled the auto-generated transcript for our source from the Biology Exams For You channel, we were, fully expecting this dense, multi-page lecture on cellular mechanics. But it yielded exactly one word: foreign. Yep, that's it. Just a single, mysterious tag from an algorithm that literally had no idea what to do with a piece of content that lacked a traditional English voiceover. But hey, rather than seeing this as an obstacle, it actually presents us with a pretty brilliant opportunity. And here's the crucial point, we really don't need spoken English to understand this concept. The true language of our source material is the universal visual medium of 3D animation. Think about it. When you're dealing with the mechanical, almost robotic nature of microscopic entities, an animated video can communicate absolute volumes more than a dense written paragraph ever could. It totally transcends language barriers. It takes the invisible and makes it, well, tangible. So for this explainer, we're just going to let the structures and the dynamic movements detailed in this animation guide our entire understanding. All right, let's jump right into defining our subject. What exactly is a bacteriophage? So a bacteriophage, or often just called a phage, if we're keeping it brief, is a virus that parasitizes a bacterium by infecting it and then reproducing inside it. In fact, the name literally translates to bacteria eater, which is pretty wild. Their absolute sole purpose in the universe is to hunt down bacterial cells, completely hijack their internal machinery, and basically use them as microscopic factories to build more phages. And because their existence is so purely mechanical and, frankly, totally bizarre, they are just the absolute perfect candidate for us to explore through an animated explainer. Okay, let's move on to the blueprint. We need to look at the actual structure of a bacteriophage. This animated video beautifully highlights three very distinct structural components for us. First up, right at the very top, we have the head, which is also known as the capsid. You can see this geometric, often icosahedral structure. Kind of think of it like a multi-sided biological diamond that safely houses the virus's incredibly precious genetic payload, its DNA. Right below that is the sheath. Now, this isn't just some rigid connecting tube. It's a dynamic, contractile, almost muscle-like cylinder. And then finally, extending out from the base, we have the tail fibers. These are those spindly, leg-like appendages that give the bacteriophage its iconic, incredibly distinctive look. And honestly, seeing it like this brilliantly illustrates exactly why scientists and animators alike are just so captivated by this virus. It truly is nature's microscopic spacecraft. I mean, when you look at a 3D model of a bacteriophage, it really doesn't look like a squishy biological organism at all, right? It looks exactly like the Apollo lunar module. You've got a payload bay, a central thruster-like core, and actual articulated landing gear. This structural design is absolutely not an accident. It is a highly evolved mechanism designed for one specific, devastating maneuver. Which brings us to the action phase. Let's look at exactly how bacteriophages infect bacteria. The animated video walks us through this incredibly ruthless two-step infiltration process. Step 1 is attachment. Remember those spindly tail fibers we just talked about? Well, they aren't just there for a smooth landing. They are actually highly sensitive chemical sensors. They touch down on the surface of a bacterium, locking onto very specific receptor sites with a terrifying level of precision. And once it's firmly anchored, step 2 triggers immediately: penetration. That central sheath we looked at suddenly contracts, acting literally like a microscopic hypodermic needle. It just punches a hole straight through the bacterium's tough cell wall and injects the DNA from the capsid head directly into the host. It is a swift, highly mechanical, and entirely fatal process for the bacteria. Now think about this. If you were just reading a standard textbook describing sheath contraction or DNA injection, the whole process remains totally invisible and honestly a bit hard to conceptualize. It just feels abstract. But watching this exact sequence play out in a 3D animated video, it changes everything. You can visually track the compression of the sheath. You can literally see the geometric precision of the tail fibers locking in. The dynamic mechanical action becomes instantly, abundantly clear. Animation allows us to actually witness a silent but deadly event that is millions of times smaller than a grain of sand. It brings the data to life in a way that written words simply cannot match. Finally, let's talk about the resolution and why visualizing this invisible world matters so much. Because the reality is, these microscopic battles are happening inside and around us every single day. Trillions of bacteriophages are currently operating out in our oceans, in the soil right in our backyards, and even right now as we speak, inside our own bodies, constantly regulating bacterial populations. They are a totally fundamental part of Earth's ecosystem. And by utilizing 3D animated video, we're able to pull back the curtain on this invisible reality. We get to transform really complex, unseen mechanics into engaging visual knowledge that anyone can grasp and appreciate. We're moving from abstract textbook science to tangible, real-world understanding. So it leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to consider. If an animated video can so perfectly reveal the mechanical precision, the almost alien spacecraft-like beauty of a single bacteriophage, what other invisible wars are currently raging just beneath our level of sight? What other hidden worlds are out there just waiting for the right visual tool to be unlocked? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep visualizing, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.